Favorite Tom Brady story?
Favorite Tom Brady story? I mean, I've been saying this story all the time, and this story gonna resonate with me for a very long time.
Okay.
But I remember we were 7-5 during the bye week.
Of the Super Bowl year.
Of the Super Bowl year during the bye week.
Right.
And
the Chiefs had just beaten you, right?
The Chiefs just beat us. We lost 3 in a row.
They put up a ton of points on you in that first quarter. Tyreek Hill still scoring. Okay.
We lost 3 in a row. And I remember Tom pinning me in the hallway, we talking, and at the end of the conversation, he just said, "Trust me, we're not going to lose another game." And we didn't lose another game. We ended up winning the Super Bowl.
He said that to you?
He said that to me. And that was pretty like, dang, this guy's the man. And, you know, as you can see, the videos and stuff like that is out there. Me giving him a humongous hug, you know, because it's like, he did something that I always wanted to do, and then he helped me get there, and I was definitely appreciative of that.
So you're just walking in the hallway?
Yeah.
Tom Brady grabbed one of the defensive captains of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in a stadium hallway, looked him dead in the eyes, and said 4 words that should have been impossible. "We will not lose." Not, "I think we can turn this around." Not, "Let's stay positive, guys." Not any of the standard locker room encouragement that gets forgotten before the bus ride home. 4 words. Cool. Certain. Absolute. "We will not lose another game." And they didn't. They won every single game from that moment forward. They won the Super Bowl. On their own home field. And Lavonte David, a man who played 14 years of professional football and saw everything this league has to offer, says that moment in that hallway is the story that is going to stay with him for the rest of his life. But before we break down exactly why that moment was so much bigger than a motivational speech, we need to talk about what was actually happening to the Buccaneers at that point in the season. Because the situation Brady walked into in that hallway was far worse than most people remember. Plus, we are going to get into what Lavonte David's retirement reveals about how rare and irreplaceable that Super Bowl window actually was. And we will get to the most important question this story raises. Was Brady making a promise, or was he seeing something the rest of the team simply could not see yet? Stay locked in, because this story is about something much deeper than football. Here is the full context, and you need to understand how bad it actually was to appreciate how extraordinary what Brady did next really was. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers in the 2020 season were 7 wins and 5 losses heading into their bye week. They had just been beaten by the Kansas City Chiefs. They had lost 3 games in a row. 3 consecutive losses at the worst possible point in the season, the stretch run where playoff positioning gets decided and where fragile teams completely fall apart. The national media had already begun writing their obituary. The hot take cycle had already shifted to questions about whether bringing Brady to Tampa was a mistake, whether a 43-year-old quarterback changing organizations late in his career was a bridge too far, whether this Buccaneers team, talented as it was on paper, simply had too many moving parts and too little time to become a real championship contender. And the team felt it. Lavonte David, the heartbeat of that Buccaneers defense, the captain, the leader, felt it. The weight of those 3 straight losses. The doubt creeping in. The questions about whether this season was slipping away. And it gets even heavier when you understand where David was emotionally at this point in his career. This was a man who had already endured 8 consecutive losing seasons in Tampa Bay before Brady arrived. 8 years. Not 1 playoff appearance. Not 1 meaningful January game. 8 seasons of showing up, playing at a Pro Bowl level, giving everything he had, and going home in the offseason with nothing to show for it but personal statistics that nobody outside of hardcore football fans ever talked about. Lavonte David knew what it felt like to be on the wrong side of history. And losing 3 in a row during what was supposed to be the year everything finally changed, that hits differently when you have been waiting almost a decade for it. Now here's where it gets really interesting.
Tom's coming this way, Lavonte David's coming this way. And he stopped you and just...
Yeah, because, you know, I was the leader, I was the captain of the team, captain of the defense, so we kind of just wanted to, like, you know, see where my head was at after, you know, what transpired the past couple of weeks. And at the same time, I wanted to see where his head was at, and I asked him and stuff like that, and then he ended up saying, like, pause a second and stop and said, "We're not going to lose another game."
And I just remember, you know, Michael Irvin with...
Picture the exact moment. Tom Brady is walking through a stadium hallway. Lavonte David is coming from the other direction. And Brady does something that tells you everything about who he was as a leader. He stops. He initiates. He seeks out the defensive captain specifically because he wants to know where that man's head is at after what just happened. That detail alone separates Brady from almost every other quarterback in NFL history. Most quarterbacks, even great ones, operate within the boundaries of their own side of the ball. They manage their offense, they lead their position group, and they trust the defensive leaders to handle their own culture. Brady did not operate that way. Brady understood that a football team is a single organism, and that the health of that organism requires the person with the most authority and credibility in the building to actively invest in every corner of the locker room, including the people on the other side of the ball who he never shared a huddle with. So Brady stops Lavonte David. They talk. David wants to know where Brady's head is at. Brady wants to know where David's head is at. Two leaders taking each other's temperature in a moment of genuine organizational crisis. And then Brady pauses the conversation and delivers the line that changed everything. Trust me, we are not going to lose another game. Not whispered. Not hedged. Not qualified with, if we play our best, or as long as we stay healthy. An absolute declaration of future certainty from a man who had lived at the highest level of this sport long enough to know the difference between a team that is losing its identity and a team that is simply going through a rough patch before it finds its gear. And here is the thing that makes this moment genuinely extraordinary: Brady was right. Not metaphorically right. Not inspirationally right in the way coaches are right when they tell their team they can do anything if they believe. Literally, factually, provably right. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers did not lose another game that season. They won every remaining regular season game. They ran through the NFC playoffs. And they defeated Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs, the same team that had beaten them weeks earlier, in Super Bowl 55 on their own home field by a score that was not even close. Brady had not made a promise. He had made a prophecy. And it came true to the letter. Now let us talk about what that moment actually reveals about Tom Brady's mental makeup, because this is where the story becomes something more than just a great locker room anecdote. Brady had won 6 Super Bowls before he ever set foot in a Tampa Bay uniform. He had been in enough dire situations, enough losing stretches, enough moments where lesser men would have questioned whether the ship could be righted, to develop an almost preternatural ability to distinguish between a team that is broken and a team that is temporarily struggling. He could read the organizational temperature of a football team the way a doctor reads vital signs. And what he saw in that Buccaneers locker room after 3 consecutive losses was not a team in crisis. It was a team that had not yet fully understood what it was capable of becoming. Think about the audacity of that statement in that moment. 7-5. 3 losses in a row. Saying with total conviction that this team will not lose another game. That means Brady was telling a room full of professionals that they were going to go on a run that took them all the way to a championship. He was not managing expectations. He was not offering comfort. He was issuing a forecast. And when Tom Brady issued a forecast with that level of certainty, the men around him had no choice but to believe it, because this was the same man who had already done the impossible more times than any quarterback in history. That is the power of a proven winner in a locker room. It is not just about talent. It is not just about preparation. It is about the weight that accumulated credibility carries when everything is on the line. When Brady said those words, they landed differently than they would have coming from any other player in that building, because Brady had the receipts. 6 rings. Countless comeback victories. A career full of moments where the world said it was over and Brady simply disagreed. Lavonte David understood that. He had watched Brady up close all season. He had seen the level of preparation, the obsession with detail, the relentless standard that Brady applied to himself every single day. And so when Brady looked him in the eye and made that declaration, David believed it. Not blindly. Not out of desperation. He believed it because everything he had witnessed about this man since Brady arrived in Tampa told him that Brady did not say things he did not mean and did not make predictions he had not already wargamed in his own mind. And the rest of that season proved them both right. The Buccaneers played in that Super Bowl with the stadium workers literally constructing the Super Bowl stage outside their practice facility window. They could see it from the practice field. The championship infrastructure going up around their home building, not as an aspiration but as a daily reminder that this was happening in their house, on their turf, and that losing was not something this group was going to allow. The combination of Brady's certainty, the proximity of that Super Bowl stage, and the belief of a veteran group that had been waiting years for this moment created an environment where winning felt like the only possible outcome. And Lavonte David, who had spent 8 years losing with no end in sight, finally got to experience what Brady had been building toward from the day he arrived in Tampa. Not just the championship, not just the ring, but the feeling of being part of something that was inevitable. Of being on a team led by a man who never for one moment considered the possibility that it would not happen. That is the legacy of Tom Brady that gets lost in the conversation about arm talent and statistics and Super Bowl totals. The thing that separated him was not just what he could do on the field. It was the weight of his certainty. The way his belief in an outcome was so complete and so credible that it became contagious. And once it spread through a locker room, the people around him found themselves playing at a level they did not know they were capable of reaching. Lavonte David played 14 seasons in the NFL. He won a Super Bowl. He played alongside some of the greatest names this generation has produced. And when he is asked for his favorite story from all of it, he does not reach for a play. He does not reach for a game. He reaches for 4 words spoken in a hallway by a man who already knew how the story was going to end. That tells you everything about Tom Brady. And everything about why what he did in Tampa was truly special. Here is the bottom line. Tom Brady did not just play football at the highest level, he operated with a certainty about outcomes that made the people around him genuinely believe in things that should not have been believable. 7-5. 3 losses in a row. And Brady stood in a hallway and told Lavonte David they were not losing another game. Then he went out and made it the truth. Lavonte David spent 14 years in this league and retired as one of the most respected defensive players of his generation. But the moment he will carry with him forever is not a sack, not a Super Bowl tackle, not a playoff win. It is a 4-word sentence from the greatest winner in NFL history that turned out to be a prophecy. My prediction: the more time passes, the more clearly this Tampa Bay Super Bowl run gets recognized as one of the most remarkable team achievements in NFL history, driven almost entirely by the force of one man's absolute, unshakable belief. If you want more stories like this from the greatest players and moments in NFL history, hit that subscribe button right now. And drop a comment below. Do you think Tom Brady was the greatest mental competitor in NFL history, or is there someone else who belongs in that conversation? This is Gridiron Insights. We'll see you in the next one.